Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Game Hub. I'm your host, Gamer K, and we are finally here at the final video of the month of July, and it's kind of a bittersweet one. I mean, on the one hand, the month is over, and I get a whole new bunch of videos next month. The bad side is that it's a worst list, and you all know how much I love those. 2 years ago, I did my best Kingdom Hearts Disney bosses. And primarily, if I do a good list, a bad list has to appear with two. So, I'm not saying that every single boss in Kingdom Hearts is flawless. I mean, before my channel became what it was, I did my favorite bosses, and the worst bosses, but that was kind of far between, and yeah, not so good. I mean, before I even started how I wanted to do my videos and all that, I was just mindlessly going about stuff. But now I've gotten a little bit more seasoned. I know how I'm doing my videos, so I've gotten a little bit better. And now to do my worst Disney bosses. And again, not every single time do we fight a Disney villain in Kingdom Hearts. Not always is it going to be bad. But these ones, oh boy. And, yeah, let's just get to this list. But before we do, I'm going in freaking prepared. And if this doesn't help, I don't know what will. So let's unlock these terrible, terrible villains from the Disney Vault. This is Gamer K's top 13 worst Kingdom Hearts Disney villains, bosses. And why top 13? Because here at the Game Hub, only the odd can be number one. Let's unlock the first one. You guys are probably expecting one of the very first ones that we fight on this list, and sadly, no. The first one on this list is not from number one, and also I'm excluding Chain of Memories bosses because even though I did beat a majority of them, they're basically just playing them with cards, and I don't. I'm also not including the recoded bosses because we don't really do anything with those. But, in a surprising twist, yeah, you. What was great, I'm very surprised the first worst one is coming from Kingdom Hearts 3, a game we waited for years. But at the same time, I just can't. Now, I know I'm babbling a lot before I get to the actual entry, but it's not that hard to deduce. Because if you exclude Marshmallow from Arendelle, there are only 2 Disney bosses, technically, that we actually fight. And one of them was on my best list. So, as much as I love the idea of what they did, and I'm very surprised the TV show didn't do that, I am going for Dark Baymax from Kingdom Hearts 3, San Fran Tokyo. And, okay, yes, this is the worst list, but the 2 that are on the bottom of this list are actually not as bad, but I couldn't justify putting them on my best list. So, yeah, Dark Baymax. Great concept. This is a clear indication of concept is great, but execution-wise. So basically, after Riku Replica comes back and I mean, literally, what better entity coming back to do a robot without an actual heart? So, I get it. But the thing is, it's done interestingly. Dark Data Riku's been using, Replica Riku has been using the Dark Cube Heartless boss of the Nanobot cubes to gain hatred and sadness. And then used it with Baymax's old hate chip. The chip that they used, that hero implemented with the combat programs, that was used to defeat Callahan. Well, almost kill Callahan. But then the Dark Cubes reach into the alternate void and bring back the original Baymax. Okay, two things on this. One, they kind of spoiled it with the promotional art that they did for Kingdom Hearts 3, so kind of ruined it. But on the second time, I thought it was just a Heartless that kind of mimicked Baymax in order to become an ultimate weapon. Secondly, it was such a good use of using Kingdom Hearts in this world. And that's where all my good stuff ends. Because the fight itself is very, very... Okay, first off, challenging. I'm not going to lie. But it does an issue that another boss fight will do on this list, where we are soloing this boss fight. So we get on Baymax as Sora, and we're gliding, chasing after Dark Baymax, where laser obstacles will come around. That's my first problem with it. Okay, yeah, when I first played it, it was something new. It was something glorious. But as I dissect it and go through it, and replaying the game twice, I came to realize that the boss fight is meh at best and annoying at worst. Dark Baymax will fly towards us and attack and combo us consistently. And also, we have no... Once again, stupid phone died. I had to plug it in. So, going back to what I was originally saying before I got cut off, we are locked into the Interceptor Wing reaction area with Baymax. So, we can't fight him ourselves. We can't use magic. We can't use the Keyblade form changes. We can't do nothing. We are locked in with Baymax throughout the fight. We can shoot beams of magic. We can use the combos from Baymax. We can use the Interceptor Wing ultimate finisher. We can heal ourselves. But Dark Baymax will not make it easy for us, because he'll fire black cubes towards us. They can be deflected and be sent back to him. He'll send small red cubes that will slowly move towards us. Red laser beams, homing drill. He'll launch his fist made by the dark cubes. Shockwaves attacks, arm thrusts. There is literally nothing that he does that isn't going to deal massive damage, especially if you are under-leveled. So make sure you did your due diligence in this. So, yeah, Dark Baymax... What makes him so bad is that he's a locked-in boss fight. And I don't really like those. I don't like, especially late game. If they did something like this in like an earlier level, then I would accept it. But the fact that they did they waited till like the second to last level, I really can't justify it, like the boss fight itself. In concept, it's great, but in execution and timing, it doesn't. That's why boss fights like these, where you are situated in using a specific style or mechanic, needs to be like early on. Like, Yeah, they need to, like, anyway. I love the Dark Baymax concept. I love the design. I love how it implements the story. And we get our original boy back, so that's a plus. But it starts off the worst list, but it's not the worst. A lot more of those are on the way. Next up, ironically, one of my favorites from Birth by Sleep was on my Disney list, my best list. And it's kind of a shame that another boss from the same world is second to bottom. Now, like I said, just because these two, Dark Baymax and this entry, are not the worst. There are just some things that could have done a bit better given circumstance. But having Lilo and Stitch in Kingdom Hearts was great. Okay, technically it was only Stitch, but you guys know what I mean. So, a lot of you know where this is going. I'm talking about Aqua's story and her fight against the big fat dummy himself, Captain Gantu. And I'm a little confused of why they did this. I mean, I'm not, but there's just some things that, like, again, this is a later boss fight too, so that's why kind of my joy is kind of down. I mean, Aqua's already fought 2 Disney villains. Technically, Spirit of the Magic Mirror counts. She fought Hades and the Ice Colossus, so I was hoping she would be the one to fight the Unverse that we get in that level. And it's just a story that doesn't really... The whole story of the deep space level just doesn't kind of commingle very well when you think too heavily about it. But Gantu's boss fight, while intriguing, it's hard to justify half the time. Gantu, like, it's at the end after we've been told to Aqua once again doing what she's told by someone of higher superiority and tries to get 626 back. Although Aqua at points does have those moments where she isn't stupid and actually kind of starts questioning the whole thing. That Stitch isn't as dangerous as they said. And Gantu being... First off, Jumba escaped. 626 escaped. Gantu is incapable. So, yeah, he's irritated that now he's going to take out 66 himself. Right before Stitch did this amazing moment.
I'm just Big Bone.
The fight itself, while set up great by stopping Gantu from destroying 66, the fight itself is bare minimum. I mean, yeah, Gantu's a larger enemy, but we're in the chamber where the gravity can be done, but it's not utilized. Okay, to be fair, Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep bosses don't really have a lot of intricate moments, which I kind of don't like. But his main sources of attacking you are charging at you and shooting you with his plasma pistol. And you can also do a reaction command where Stitch will jump and you throw him at Gantu, stunning him for a little bit. That's pretty much it. The boss fight has really no grand theatrics in terms of like other bosses in Birth by Sleep, but at the same time they're not as lacking as they would. Yeah, I got really not a lot to talk about Gantu in this scenario, but overall, it's a boss fight that feels Like, they had an idea for Gantu for this boss fight and story being shown up by Aqua and everything, but there's no real immenseness in it. Like, if they had created an unversed that joined Gantu, I mean, we already had an unversed that the metamorphosis that was going that's in Ven's story. But if we just had Gantu's negativity of being jealous of being put on the back burner again by the councilwoman and his failures, if we had just like a somewhat unversed that comes out of the woodwork and obeys Gantu because it's feeding off his negativity, and it would be a 2-on-2, that would have been a little bit better. Like, if they did something like that. But I mean, what they did wasn't the worst thing ever. So, I can't give it so much gripe. So, on to the next one. On to the next one. We're finally at Kingdom Hearts 1, and okay. We have a lot to choose from here, guys. We have literally a lot to choose from in Kingdom Hearts 1 for really bad bosses, mostly because they didn't get everything done. Well, they didn't have the right combat down for a lot of levels. The platforming, whatever that was awful. But overall, a lot of the Disney bosses were good. A lot of them were okay. Now, if I had to pick one that's running up for right before we get to the bad ones, I'm going to go for a boss fight that should have been so simple. But no, I'm going for Genie Jafar from Kingdom Hearts 1. It is the quintessential moment of grandiose versus execution. Like, yeah, Jafar makes his final wish to become the ultimate genie, and the boss fight ensues in the Cave of Wonders, but it is so lame. Jafar is here in the background with his smug look, having his arms crossed all the time, and he's throwing giant lava balls at you. And the platforms changing heights does add a little bit of challenge to it if you're not paying attention, but it also gives you a shield to avoid being hit. But the biggest sin of this boss is the fact that you don't even have to hit Jafar. You can't hit Jafar. You have to hit Iago carrying the fucking lamp. Yeah, he's flying throughout the boss fight carrying the lamp. You hit him a good number of times, he'll fall, leaving the lamp super vulnerable. I mean, Jafar being the main villain, that the first one that you take out, I'm excluding Clayton. He isn't a freaking villain. He did not join the alliance that Maleficent created. But why is Jafar one of Disney's greatest villains such a disappointment for boss fights? I mean, and the worst thing about it is, like, if they had brought Heartless into the boss fight, I would be okay with this, because yeah, Jafar has access to the Heartless. He could call upon them to attack Sora, Donald, Goofy, and Aladdin. But no, it's just Iago flying throughout the arena and us beating him to death. Need I say more? But as bad as that is, again, there are 10 more worse ones on this list. So and another thing that makes this boss fight a little bit shit is the fact that afterwards, we are indulged into a moment of riding carpet out of the frickin' Cave of Wonders. Very little in Kingdom Hearts after we do a boss fight, did we have to do something so stupid. I don't get it. Okay, again, first game, they were working out the kinks and bugs of what they were trying to do. So, can I really gripe them so much? I guess not. I mean, I guess not. So, next on the list. Not only are we still stuck in Kingdom Hearts 1 for this next entry, but we are stuck in Agrabah. No. Luckily, it's not Jafar's first boss fight, where it's very little difficulty because Genie keeps helping us. But it's the one we get before we have to fight Jafar. I'm talking about the immeasurable. It's the freaking Cave of Wonders head. The Cave of Wonders. This freaking head is a boss fight. You know, before we got to this moment, we had to fight a stupid wind-up tower to free Alice in Wonderland. We had to fight Clayton technically twice. We had to fight Sabor constantly. We even got to fight Cloud Strife, which was freaking awesome. But fighting the Cave of Wonders is not fun. The stupid thing comes up with the darkness enveloping its eyes, and it spits out bandits at us, banded heartless, and we have to jump on its head and attack its eyes. The thing will bury its face in the sand. It will spit fire. The darkness in its eyes will even send out beams that can be deflected. This is literally one of the easiest things ever, and it sucks. I mean, why? You know what? There's not that much to talk about this boss fight. It is just God. It's simple. It's lazy. It's terrible. It does nothing. And also, the fact that we don't do it in Kingdom Hearts 2 is a freaking blessing. Because imagine if they revamped it after Pete went into the Cave of Wonders. And then just as insurance, decided to corrupt it. How did that even happen to begin with? I don't get it. Well, again, at least we only had to do it once. And it's one of the more easier bosses to do. So it's not that awful, but it's still terrible. Can we get some variety, please, in the next one? Apparently not. We're still stuck at Birth by Sleep, for Christ's sake. One of my favorite games, but one of the ones that have the worst Disney bosses. Yeah. I'm talking about... Okay, how many Disney bosses are there actually in Birth by Sleep? about 9, and only a couple of them got on my good list. But we're still stuck in Birth by Sleep for worst bosses. So, going through it all, I had to go with, finally, we actually get to play as Ventus in one of these, with his boss fight against Maleficent in Enchanted Dominion. This boss fight is actually awful. I was this close to putting her boss fight from Hollow Bastion on this list. Because all we do is dodge her attacks and use gravity on her floating platform, and she brings out Defender Heartless. But that actually led to an amazing boss fight with the dragon form. This doesn't. We're in her throne room in a circular arena where she teleports a lot, uses her thunder, her lightning magic, that spinning thing that she does in the movie and attacks us. She creates a spell of darkness that will make us go to sleep for 6 seconds, leaving us vulnerable. And in order to counter that, Ventus has to do a QTE section with the 3 fairies to dispel that and leave Maleficent vulnerable for a bit. Oh my God. I don't know how, but Maleficent's boss fights are always awful. From Hollow Bastion to here. Her dragon bosses are the only good ones from her. And it kind of makes me happy that we didn't get a boss fight with her in either Kingdom Hearts 2 or Kingdom Hearts 3. I'm fairly glad of that, because I can't imagine them being any different or any better than what we got here. So, yeah, the entirety of her boss fight isn't that spectacular. I just wish that future bosses in Kingdom Hearts, if we ever get it again and they ever bring out new levels for Disney that we haven't seen yet, I just can't expect it. So, yeah, it's quick, it's easy, it's one of the first bosses, so Maleficent is... She starts off the really shitty part of these lists and going forward. Oh, dear God. I have a headache. Get next. Okay. We've gone through a lot of bad ones, and they're all bad. But maybe the next one won't be as dumb or awful as the other ones. I mean, like I said, Guaranty was a good concept. Dark Baymax was a good concept. It's just that these last 3 have obviously been terrible. So what's the next one? Something from Kingdom Hearts 2 maybe? Dream Drop Distance? What? Really? Herc, what do you... Oh my God. Technically a boss fight that you do after you defeat the Hercules Cup. And then we lock Olympus Coliseum for the first one. This boss fight is a big insult. Whereas, actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, a majority of the boss fights in Olympus Coliseum are awful. Except for Cerberus and Cloud. And Hades. And Ice Titan. Rock Titan was surprisingly easy. But Herc, what the hell? How did the developers think this was a good idea? We fight Herc mano a mano with just Sora, and I'm okay with that, because throughout the majority of some of the tournaments, we do have Donald and Goofy assisting, but having to go toe-to-toe with Herc, I enjoy it. what makes this boss fight awful is everything that Herc does and doesn't do. Especially considering since after we beat him, he says this.
Wow! And I didn't even hold back. I didn't even hold back.
You didn't hold back? You didn't hold back? Are you insane? You are invincible. Literally, the glow he has isn't just because he's using a new type of sunscreen. He is invincible. Literally can't take damage. So first playing this, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe we have to wear him down, guard some of his attacks. Use certain like, what if they did use gravity on him or stop, and that would stop it and allowing him to be weak, vulnerable for a bit, because we have to go throughout a bunch of the game before we can do this fight and finish Olympus Coliseum. But no. Guys, if you thought Jafar's boss fight in Kingdom Hearts 1, where Iago was holding the lamp the whole time with no backup, no protection, this is 100% worse. In order to get Herc out of his hero demigod glow, you throw a barrel at him. In order to damage him, we have to go Donkey Kong versus Mario on Herc, throw a barrel at him, and he's vulnerable for a bit. And his attacks consist of 3 things. Okay, 4 goddamn things for the greatest hero in Greece. He swings his sword like a Beyblade around the arena, destroying the barrels. Oh, and the barrels appear out of nowhere randomly. He smacks down on us with a shockwave. He will charge at us, or he'll just fucking try to punch us. And then once in a while, he will go back into his invincible mode. Now, that does sound a bit like a challenge, considering we are all mano a mano. But what makes this boss fight awful? I can't believe I'm comparing this to another bad boss that does this. He does what Joker did in Arkham Asylum. Instead of beating the shit out of Batman in this grotesque, monstrous form, he jumps up and turns to the camera and flexes. And Herc flexes. He will stand perfectly still and flex his muscles like he's doing a Herculade commercial. I could forgive the weakness to barrels for his immunity. I could forgive that if the boss fight was challenging, but he stops and flexes his muscles almost all the time. So making what he said about not holding back bullshit, because you literally do nothing. How is it my favorite movie, one of my favorite levels, with my favorite villain, has the worst fight with the hero? And it's not that often that we get to fight a hero. Like, I think it happens like 3 times in the entire series. I'm not counting Rinsler in Dream Drop Distance because he is technically a villain. He's just reprogrammed. But come on, Herc! This is your cup. This is your stadium. And you are literally being like, I swear to God. I gotta end this one before I go on a long, elaborate rant. Get me out of here. Get me out of here. Okay. The rage is gone. I just hope we are out of those old games. Okay, I'm not calling Bark by Sleep old, but you guys know what I mean. What's next? That boss music can only mean 3 things. Anytime this music plays, either it's Pete from Olympus Coliseum. Is it? Okay, then it's one of the trio bosses. Because anytime it's the trio from any of the games, this music always plays. So oh, Christ. It's Pete and the Beagle Boys. What the hell was this game thinking? I mean, okay. I'm not gonna lie. The moments of Mickey's mind, I don't really know if these are actual worlds or anything, but yeah, you know what? I have no fucking clue. They're just freaking cool. But the boss fight with Pete and the Beagle Boys is the worst fight with Pete ever. I prefer, like, once again, I love the boss fight in Timeless River. All of them. But this boss fight is insufferable. It takes place on the upper stage where we, again, fight the Beagle Boys. We already fought them in that cramped-ass tower. So why are we fighting them again? And so we fight them, and then we do the Wonder Comic reaction command to shoot them out of a cannon right at Pete. After we do it 3 times, then we get to fight Pete. And he's just as bad, sword swinging, charging at us, and even dropping some of the set pieces on our heads. What makes this and then we do the Wonder Comic on him, and boss fight's over. What makes this boss fight so terrible is concept. I mean, it doesn't make sense. I mean, okay, that's all because, as much as I do like Dream Drop Distance, it's beyond perfect, especially considering, you know, the fact we don't get a fucking answer for how Symphony of Sorcery and Country of the Musketeers exist as worlds, because they're all based on, you know, Mickey. I don't get it. But it also goes to the fact that after the boss fight, we just cut to Minnie giving us knighthood of Musketeer, and we don't see Pete again. Also, we don't know if Pete is at all involved with anything. Like, is he? It's because Pete used to work for them in Disneytown. So how do they not know that Pete is evil here because he was banished? This is the realm of sleep. Oh my god. This boss fight alone is, the concept is somewhat okay. The whole boss fight is boring and not that challenging. But it's just concept and context that make me question it so much. It makes no sense. But at the same time, we got this whole thing that Mickey knows that we're from another world and anything, but it feels like it's all over the place. That's why this boss fight is here. Because it's part of a level, it's part of a game that is all over the place in continuity. So I had to knock it down. I had to bring it up just to knock it down. And it's quick. Next up. Remember how I talked about Dark Baymax's boss fight? Where we are literally kind of situationed into the boss fight with no way of doing anything else? Well, this one is on here too. And yeah, it's one of the only ones from, you know what? I can't believe I'm bringing a villain so higher up the list. Here we have Genie Jafar from Kingdom Hearts 2. How the fuck did Jafar get two boss fights literally on the same list? That's amazing. Although I am glad that they did cut doing his boss fight with him in his genie human form first. But we are situationed on carpet as a platform. Why? Because it was a pain in the ass to do it in the ruins first. So they thought, you know what? We just did that. And now we're right to the city again. Let's do the boss fight with this. No! I mean, at least here we can use magic. But it doesn't matter because I'm pretty sure Jafar is immune to magic in the boss fight itself. Okay, the atmosphere being over Agrabah and everything, I give it a couple points. But the whole entirety of the boss fight is awful. It's god awful. Primarily because we have to hit his torso until he's wounded, and then we go up, do a reaction command, and make him dizzy for a bit, and attack his head. Shocking they didn't implement him with his fucking lamp in this. Also, he will spawn thunder attacks, fireballs, do a big spin where he's hitting us. And then he'll bring us into a realm where he's far away and he's sending building debris at us. So we gotta dodge that. We gotta get away. And rinse and repeat until the boss fight's over. So the one thing I hate about this boss, not just the situation that we're on carpet, but the fact is, unlike other boss fights where the reaction commands we do inflict a bit of damage, all this does is make him dizzy for a bit. I don't get it. Why was this so great? It wasn't. Why was this for returning to Agrabah? We could have gotten this fucking out of the way right away. Now that I think about it, why were both bosses in Agrabah both at the palace? Although, to be fair, having a boss fight in the city would have been really cool, and having one in... No, Cave of Wonders. But yeah, Jafar, you struck out every single boss fight. Even though your first one in Kingdom Hearts 1 isn't on this list, I had to say that it's awful. But I was going to put it on the list, all honesty. But other bosses were just worse. Hell, Baymax and Gantu were worse than you. So you smidged by a margin. So, for being a great vizier, you're not that great of a boss. Yeah. Well, at least we're sticking to Kingdom Hearts 2 for a little bit. And this one is a boss fight that is as annoying as it is difficult. Annoying. And it's another revisit boss. So that kind of eliminates a majority of it. So I am talking about the hyenas from Kingdom Hearts 2, the Pride Lands Revisit. These fucking hyenas. I hate them. If their first fight where we have to protect Pumbaa isn't annoying enough, being in the cramped up cave of Pride Rock, if that didn't make it more annoying, this boss fight is way more annoying than it ever needed to be. And also, we get that fucking music where they do with the trio, with Lock, Shock, and Barrel, the Beagle Boys, and frickin' the hyenas. So it takes place in the Elephant Graveyard area, which I had to actually get this image from my book, my strategy guide. This entire area is the boss area. So we have to defeat all three hyenas. They don't share a health bar, which sucks. So they will run around. They will run around the entire area independently and attack us by swiping at us, biting us, and running away. So it's basically a game of cat and mouse, but oh my god, I'm getting a headache from this. And finding them is a pain in the ass. Okay, to be fair, I'm glad that Simba and Donald and Goofy will go throughout and attack them as well. And at least with the first one, we can use magnet on them in order to bring them all three of them together so we can attack them. This one, it's a bigger area. So tracking them down and them moving constantly is going to be a bane of your existence. It's annoying. They're not that challenging. I don't remember dying that much in this boss fight, but at the same time, it's annoying to do. At least they show which ones have been defeated, so you don't have to keep looking around for ones that have been defeated, because all they do is show them on screen with the dizzy thing on them so that they're done. But at the same time, the hyenas there's nothing really interesting about the boss fight. It's awful because it's annoying and painful to do. Their boss fight to protect Pumbaa was a little bit harder because at least, you know what? It's awful. And oh my god. I am literally in pain right now because of this goddamn list. So, the hyenas, awful boss fights. Can we continue, please, so I can get through this? Hey. Next one on the list is... Man, Kingdom Hearts 1 has had a lot of terrible boss fights. And this one comes from one of the worst worlds in the game, and a lot of people hate it so much. We're going under the sea to one of the worst boss fights of Kingdom Hearts 1. I am talking about... I'm talking about Jafar to no end. And I love Oogie Boogie's boss fight. Except for that stupid tree after the whole fight. But I am obviously talking about Ursula. Now, is it Giant Ursula? No, actually. I actually did that one very fine. It's her first boss fight in her lair. That is the worst thing. Because not only are the controls for Atlantica's movement system and everything shit, absolutely awful, fighting enemies or that Bruce the Shark was tolerable, but what makes Ursula's boss fight beyond insufferable is just the whole aspect of it. From the combat system, fighting open water areas of enemies is fine because at least you can maneuver. Here, it is enclosed, it is cramped, and plus you're also fighting Flotsam and Jetsam too. And Ursula as she spins, and it's terrible. Also, make sure you have a lot of ether on you, because the whole kind of key into making this boss fight not so bad is Ursula's Cauldron, which is smack dab in the middle of the area, and you will have to use certain magic on it in order for it to create a big explosion that stuns Ursula. So, use Blizzard, use Fire, use Thunder correctly, and you will do it. You will not stun her. Not a lot to say about this boss fight. It is just awful in concept and execution. And just like with Jafar in Kingdom Hearts 1, where that boss fight leads to another boss fight is insufferable. But the top three have worse implications. So Ursula escapes being on the top three of the list, mostly because as bad as it is and as cramped and claustrophobic as the boss fight is, these three are somewhat worse in one aspect or another. So let's just get out of this. Kingdom Hearts 2, we're talking about Sark and the MCP. This was one of my worst bosses, period, in Kingdom Hearts, and it's still there. The first fight with Sark and the Starfinder Heartless is interesting. But again, it's a small mini boss where Sark will throw his data disk at us and we can send it right back to him. I'm gonna say this. I always try to win that fight while sending the disc back to him because it's so fun. And then the Sark does what he does in the movie and makes Sark grow giants. So we gotta deal with Sark first, and there's two ways of doing that. One, you can go for his knees and then attack his head and rendering him incapable. Or you can run away from him and he'll bring up a wall to stop you, and you'll do a reaction command and dive right towards his head and stun him. And then we have to defeat the MCP just like we did in the movie. By getting rid of his defense grid, and they are destroyable, and they will shoot out lasers too, which I do like that. And the MCP will spin them. So you'll have to either destroy them or find the opening. And then you have to have Tron with you. You have to have Tron not taken out. Where you'll do delete and you'll have to keep button mashing triangle and depleting the health. So I do like, this is kind of like, again, a computer virus. Where you have to spam the button in order to deplete the health of the virus. But after a while, the walls will spin and come down and shockwave you. So you'll have to do it all again. Which, again, I do like that. I do like the concept of this boss fight. But the reason it's one of the worst ones is, again, it's last. Oh my God. It's last. Sark is the last Disney villain. Sark and the MCP are the last Disney villains that you fight in the game. Because, okay, you can basically, forget that babbling. Them being the last ones that you fight in Kingdom Hearts 2, and it's a revisit again. So, it is bad because a boss fight like this, did we really need to separate this thing from Space Paranoids and wait till we did all the other levels? Did we really? The bosses that we fight during the revisits are exponentially better. And also, we don't go back to Timeless River or Disney Castle, so that's a one and done. What we should have done is after we go back to Land of Dragons, Beast Castle, Coliseum, and Port Royal, we get a distress call coming from Hollow Bastion telling us so that we know. And that brings us to the whole story for Space Paranoids. Why do all the other levels first when, first off, the level the revisit to Space Paranoids is so short. It is one of the shortest ones. There's not that much challenging. The boss fight with MCP and Sark are easy, so there's no real reason to finish all the other levels first and then to go back. But that's what people do. That's what we do. It is. It's an easy boss fight so late in the game. Same problem with Gantu and I guess the Beagle Boys, that it's such an easy-ish fight so late in the game. Because after this, we go right the fuck to Twilight Town for the end game. If it was done halfway through the revisits, it would have been fine. But that's just my opinion. Easy concept, easy boss fight. They literally do exactly what we did in the fucking movie, so that's pretty good. Riku's side of the story for that world, which is pretty much Fantasia. They took Karabog and they made him into the dive section. All you do is go through this part by diving like you have to enter the worlds. You dodge the ghosts, you dodge the fireballs, you dodge the pillars of fire, and then you slam into Karabog. You do this 3 times. Yeah. That was from my worst bosses of Kingdom Hearts in general. Once again, you can see like nothing's really sophisticated, nothing's really great. But yeah. Chernabog from Dream Drop Distance isn't the worst Disney boss ever anymore. It's still awful, but it's not number 1, which I'm very surprised. I mean, I know I made the list and everything, and I know I contemplate it, but even I still can't believe that Chernabog isn't at the worst spot anymore. The boss fight, again, a late boss fight in Dream Drop Distance, where we fight him in Riku's story in Symphony of Sorcery. Now, again, I've said this before a lot. Chernabog is where I left off in my Kingdom Hearts playthrough way back in PlayStation 2. And no, I never got the remaster because I don't need to. I'm never replaying that one. The other ones I'll happily replay because they're not a chore or annoyance. And having the big bad of Bald Mountain return, imagery was done for it and people were excited. Until you made him into a fucking dive section, and his boss fight is literally the easiest thing ever. If you haven't been a brain-dead moron for a majority of the game, dive sections are where you dodge and just charge. And that's what Chernabog does. He creates pillars of fire, he'll send his ghouls at you. You dodge them 3 times. You hit them 3 times. And this great devil, amazing villain of Disney past, that doesn't really have a theme. He's just evil. A hard boss fight in the original game. Not even in a world, but the end of the world where he's just waiting. I don't really get the reason for that. Maybe his world was lost to darkness, so he's there. He's ultimate evil. I don't know. But the fact that it's so simple, and it's just like the Sark in the MCP. It's the final villain that you fight right before Endgame. And it's easy. It's so easy that it's hard to justify the entirety of it all. Oh, dear Lord. So, yeah. So, if 2 bosses that are endgame right before the final are at these spots and they're so easy, what could possibly be number 1? Well, oh my God. Guys, get ready, because I think I may be the only one who's ever done a list like this and put this boss fight this high on a bad list. But you know what? Let's get to it. So, we've talked about bosses that put you in a situation that makes it difficult and annoying. We've talked about bosses that didn't really have a lot of substance in terms of the story of the world. Bosses that are a pain in the ass in concept and design. And bosses that are straight up easy right near the end of the game, which is unacceptable. So how about a boss fight that is kind of all of that? Concept, story-wise, design-wise, right end game. A lot of you don't know who it is, do you? Well, it's a boss fight that had the potential to be something really unique. A boss fight that had a good situation of misunderstanding. And again, it's right at the end near the end of the game. So it's the last one you fight before you get to the final area. Actually, that's not true, because after this, we get an amazing second to last boss fight, and then we go to the final area. And I'm not dropping any clues. It's something I never thought I would do. From Birth by Sleep, we have Peter Pan, the leader of the Lost Boys and hero, is the worst Disney boss in Kingdom Hearts. We fight him in Terra's story after Terra kind of was tricked again by Captain Hook by saying there's a precious light in this chest and it needs to be protected. We go to Skull Rock, we defend it, and Peter Pan tries to trick us, and it's a misunderstanding. And the boss fight is god-awful. Peter Pan's floating around everywhere, flying around, so obviously using seeking magic works, and he'll come and parry us and stab us. But that's not what makes this boss fight so bad, is the situation. About halfway through the boss fight, after we deplete Peter's health a bit, the fight ends abruptly. And it's revealed through being realization that it was just treasure that we were hiding. Peter Pan tells Terra that you've been duped, which is Terra's whole character throughout the game. In fucking... by Maleficent, by the Evil Queen, by Hades, by Jumba, by Bragg. Pretty much everyone in this game, Terra has been fooled. The only time he wasn't fooled is in Castle of Dreams, which that's not saying much. What makes it so worse is the fact that it ends so abruptly. But what makes it worse is that after, like, we do the final boss of Neverland for Terra, which is a horde of shade jellies. Yeah, we don't get an unversed in this boss fight, in this level. We don't get to fight Hook, which would have been great. We get to fight one-shot enemies, a horde of them. Barely a fight. Abruptly ends halfway. Near the end of the game. And what makes it... you know what? Everything about this boss fight is an insult. It's god-awful. And the fact that it's on one of 2 times we fight a hero in this game. At the bottom of this list and at the top of this list. Oh, and Hercules. But the fact that this was contemplated and this was finalized. It's what makes Peter Pan the worst Disney boss fight in the entirety of Kingdom Hearts history. And I pray that in the next game, in I don't know how many more years, we get superior Disney bosses. I mean, I can only hope. And that's it for this week, that's it for this month, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed the list. I hope you guys enjoyed my rants. Like, comment, subscribe down below, and join me next month. What am I reviewing next month? Let me check. Oh! Alrighty-roo. Join me next month, where we begin August by going a game review of my favorite detective, finding out the darkness of an ancient Lovecraftian entity. This is Gamer K, logging out.